This podcast is a part of the Podmania podcasting network. Check out podmania.co.uk to check out more of our great podcasts, features, reviews, match ratings and previews spanning the crazy and diverse world of professional wrestling. Hello guys and welcome to another episode of the Stardom Cast, your monthly audio source for all things World Wonder Ring Stardom. I'm your host Rob Good and I'm joined as ever by Chris O'Brien. How you doing, buddy?
I've been worse, I suppose.
Yeah, fair enough. How are you holding up under the current circumstances of the lockdown and that sort of thing?
It's weird, like, last we spoke, I was under the most amount of stress I've ever been in my life because I was finishing an honours degree. But now I don't know what to do with myself. I miss being stressed.
It's always the way, isn't it? You've at least got the structure of having something to do, but the moment that's taken away, you feel at odds and ends with yourself. It's weird. It is a weird situation. You'll get used to it, trust me. But yeah, it seems like forever since we did an episode of this podcast, and I don't think anyone could have anticipated how much the landscape would have changed in between the two podcasts that we did. I mean, this podcast, for those unaware, this podcast has gone under about 3 different names now. We were going to do about 3 different things, and then just awful thing after awful thing seemed to happen. So we're here today. First, to speak about the tragic death of Hana Kimura, and then second, to have a retrospective of the career of Arisa Hoshiki, who unfortunately retired, relinquishing the Wonder of Stardom Championship on the 20th of May, just over a year into her reign with the championship. Let's get straight into it, Chris. Obviously, on the 23rd of May, 2020, Hana Kimura died at the age of 22. This was heart-wrenching, and this affected me in a way I didn't expect it to at all. There's so many things about this that are just awful, and there's so many circumstances surrounding this that are awful. But we're going to talk about a few of them now. But most importantly, we are going to celebrate things about Hana Kimura. We are going to celebrate the good things about Hana Kimura. Now, I know that I am a relative noob, not even a relative noob, a noob to Stardom as a whole. But even in the relatively short time in watching the promotion, Hana was one of the bright sparks of the promotion, someone that drew me in with her charisma, her persona, the personality that she had just drew me in, and she was one of the characters that you are automatically drawn to. But to go into her death, prior to her body being found, she had posted some graphic images on her Twitter feed portraying self-harm, and these were taken down, and I thought that was the end of it, if I'm perfectly honest, Chris. When I saw this, I saw that obviously everyone on Twitter was, trying to get in touch with people that knew Hana, that could get to Hana. And once the tweets were taken down, I was hopeful that someone had got to her, someone had talked her down, and things were okay. And then, obviously, with the time difference between Japan and the UK, I woke up the next day to find that she had, unfortunately, passed away. And I don't know, Chris, whether it's the circumstances, which we'll get into in a minute, whether it's what caused it, whether it's the fact that she was on her own. It just, I didn't expect it to affect me the way it has. It truly is awful.
Yeah. There's nothing you can say. It's ridiculous. Like, the circumstances surrounding it, of course. Almost part and parcel with putting yourself out there, and it's a wonder anyone does, really. And
It is.
And it's ridiculous. I didn't see any of the stuff until, like, you posted, because I don't go on Twitter very often nowadays, and mostly because wrestling Twitter's fucking unusable. So then, like, went to bed, woke up at 12 p.m. because I'm a piece of shit, and yeah, you had posted in the group chat about it, and I'm like, oh fuck, I've been like, I learned all this shit straight away, and it's like, yeah, don't know, like, it's always weird when someone my age dies.
Yeah. Part of me wanted to do this podcast earlier, as a tribute to her, but purely selfishly, I couldn't find the words. Stuff like this hits home without getting into too much detail, and I didn't want to talk about it, but we owe it to Hana to talk about it. You mentioned, Chris, obviously putting yourself out there on Twitter. We are, of course, referring to the fact that the widely believed reason that Hana took her own life is the result of the cyberbullying that she was subjected to as a result of her appearances on Terrace House. Terrace House is a Netflix program in Japan. For all intents and purposes, and I am by no means an expert, it is Big Brother, from what I can guess, where you are encouraged to live with, I think most of them are not massive celebrities, but relative celebrities. And the storylines are then obviously based around how you interact and how you build relationships with the people that you live with. For the most part, Hana was quite liked. She started sort of, I don't want to say storyline. There was sparks between her and one of the housemates, and that fell through, which upset her greatly. And then there was another man, I believe his name is Kai, that she started. There wasn't a relationship there or anything like that, but I know that there was something there. And basically, she asked him to wash her wrestling attire that she was going to be using at the Tokyo Dome, and he did, and ruined it for all intents and purposes. Put it in the washing machine in the dryer, and it shrunk in the wash. And Hana got very, very angry, slapped the cap off Kai's head, and basically that was that. And almost instantly after this outburst, the criticism began to roll in. And criticism is a light term for the things that have been screenshotted that she was sent. Just awful, awful stuff. Everything ranging from you need to go away to you should die. Which no one should ever be sent. No one should ever have the right to say that to another human being.
It becomes weirdly desensitizing on like how often people say that, but like from personal experience, when you're getting told something like that on a daily basis by several people, you're just sort of like, yeah, probably.
The problem is that when you are in the public eye, as Hana is, you are exposed to more, and the reports range to hundreds to even thousands of these comments a day. And this will be hard on anyone. But for someone who was bullied as a child for being half Japanese, she's half Indonesian, half Japanese, for being subjected to bullying from that younger age all the way through to her age of 22, and then to have this blown up in her face and to be subjected to what she was subjected to, and then to be subjected to it in the current climate where you are alone, where you can't go to see anyone, where you can't be with anyone, where you are locked in a house with your own thoughts, with your own feelings, with all this cloud of hate. I can't even begin, Chris, to comprehend what must have been going through this poor girl's head during all of this, you know, from the things that she posted to the fact that she took her cat to the Stardom dojo to the fact that she was alone. And the fact that this was so preventable. I think that's what really upset me. Hana Kimura died at the age of 22. 22 years old. In England, that is a year coming out of university. That is... No one should be dying at the age of 22. Not in this circumstance, not in any circumstance, but especially because of something that has been an issue for so long in how we use social media, how people conduct themselves on social media, those people who seem to think that social media has no consequences, that you can post what you want when you want, when everyone seems to go from 1 to 100 in the blink of an eye and goes from perfectly fine to all outrage in the space of 30 seconds, and to come up with these horrendous things that you would never say to anyone's face. You simply wouldn't, but because it's a screen, because it's a keyboard, because you can't see the person that you are saying these things to, it suddenly, in the mind of these people, makes it okay. And it's not. And this is rightly going to bring about change in the way people use social media. I know that Japan are in the process of looking at different laws where, for example, people have got to post their phone numbers or have got to link a phone number with all of their social media accounts so that they can be held responsible. But the fact that it has gotten to this toxic level is unacceptable. And quite frankly, Chris, we didn't know the way that she took her own life, and I literally read it before we came online, and
don't think we should read it.
I'm not going to. Don't worry.
Definitely put content warnings at the beginning of this podcast, but
yeah, I don't, we're not going to talk about that. I want to say that to think that this has been caused by other people is horrendous. It is horrendous. What I am going to say, and this is the last bit on this sort of bit for me, we have to be better as people. We have to be better to the people we talk to. We need to be better to the people on social media. We need to be better. We need to be nicer, kinder. We need to make sure that, as I posted on Twitter when this happened, we need to be using social media to build people up, not to knock people down. Because at the moment, it is so much easier to knock people than to build them, and it's not right. And if I hear one more person qualify what they're doing as banter is unacceptable. If you qualify, upsetting someone or making a joke at someone's expense as banter, that's not on. That's not on. There's a difference between having a joke with friends and destroying someone's self-confidence, destroying someone's self-esteem, and that is ultimately what has happened here. And our thoughts, prayers, good wishes, everything go out to Kyoko, to Jungle Kiona, to everyone that worked with Hana, who was friends with Hana, who knew Hana, who was touched by this person's absolute beauty inside and outside. Her, for all intents and purposes, from stories that everyone, whether they be wrestlers or fans, all the stories that these people have produced, paint her as an absolute saint. And rightly so, Chris.
Yeah. Okay, so Hannah's actually one of the first people I paid attention to when I first started Stardom, on like the request of Pulse, who like did a starter's guide for Stardom. He was like, okay, start on the day before the draft and then the draft, and then like you're free to watch whatever you want. So that's what I did. And like his first one that really caught my eye, mostly because like her attire was like striking. It was unbelievably colourful. She had a big gas mask. Did she have the samurai sword at that point? At some point, she gets a katana. And yeah, I don't think there's been a single Stardom cast we've done that Hannah's been in where we haven't qualified what we said about her before saying she's the best promo in Stardom. Because she just was.
Absolutely.
She was second generation in the best way, where like you can tell she just had a knack for the business. She knew what to lean into to get popular, but like she knew what to do to get big. But the reason why she was basically Stardom's Western ambassador for a while, like she'd always be going off to like Ring of Honor and shit like that, and she was on the G1 Supercard along with Kagetsu and Izuki and also May, but we don't talk about that match. She was getting better in ring every time you saw her. Like, that's all you can ask for a young wrestler, is to continue improving. And like at 22, she was better than like at 22 years old, she was better than anyone you'd see with WWE experience in any local fed, and was only continuing to get better, continuously adding to her moveset. It's the youngest champion in Japanese history because she won the DDT Iron Man Heavyweight Championship when she was 2005. So she would be
7, I think.
7. No, 8.
8. Sorry, I apologize.
Yeah, I should know that because I'm the same age as her. Yeah, and then lost it to her mother. That's just weird. To be fair, to preface this belt, like we didn't actually have 7-year-old Kimura wrestling. The DDT Iron Man heavy metalweight championship is a belt that can be won by literally anything, and like by thing I mean thing. It's been held by 2 different sex dolls, 3 different ladders, a trash can, Jack the Jobber from Cultaholic, and the belt itself. I don't know how. I can't find that footage, but like if you look at the history, the belt's been held by the belt, and I don't understand how that works. But yeah, like she was essentially the Naito of New Japan amount. She was leading their sort of anti-hero faction. She was probably the most popular person, but not getting title shots. Well, she did win the 5-star, but like not winning titles because she was just not quite there yet. And you could sense she was getting there like very, very, very quickly.
Yeah.
This thing, her official debut wasn't until like 2016.
I was just going to say, her career was it was astronomical in some respects. I mean, she was 22 years old. Her debut 2016, so she had four years ring experience max, and she was one of the 4 people chosen to represent Stardom at the Tokyo Dome. She's held multiple championships in Stardom, and I wanted to go back, Chris, on your comment about how she was getting better every day or every match in ring, and nowhere, because I went back and watched some matches with Hana Kimura in ready, because I thought I need to watch more. I owe it to her. And nowhere was that more obvious than her last run in the 5-star, where she pulled out bangers against Mayu, bangers against Hazuki, and a banger against, I think it was Momo. And all 3 of those matches were great.
Is 5 stars much like the G1 or Champions Carnival? Great matches get buried because of how much of it there is.
Yeah. No, I get that. It's just, all the time she was getting better. And to be chosen to win the 5-star, you sensed that big things were coming for Hana Kimura. And, that feud with Julia. Julia, this big signing that Stardom had made this big thing about, and she'd sort of been just floating until her feud with Hana. And that match at the year-end climax was great. Brutality. It was wonderful. And we reviewed it, I think, in our first ever episode of the Stardom cast. And I talked about how...
We did spend half the time slating Julia, but the other half praising Hana.
Yeah, and I will say that Julia is getting better, in my opinion. That's not the point of this, but I just wanted to get that in there. But yeah, she's had belt opportunities. She led the most popular faction. And yeah, that trio of her, Jungle Kiona, and Konami was great, was really, really great. And they were headed for such good things, which is upsetting in itself. I wanted to ask you, Chris, if you could pick one, or two, let's go two, why not? If you could pick two of your favourite Hana Kimura memories from your time watching Stardom, because you have been watching Stardom a lot longer than I have, what would they be?
Literally about a year this month. The banana in May's hand, because what the fuck?
That was amazing. Just the look on Mayu's face.
No, it's just a case of she was just eating a banana and because it's Hana, you're just sort of not questioning it. It's like, of course she's eating a banana. And then she just puts it in May's hand, and she's like, do you want this back? And she's like, no. So in this official photo shoot. But I don't know why she didn't just throw it down.
It was the fact that they then had the official pre-tournament photograph with Mayu holding the banana skin.
What would have made that even more perfect if she'd have used that in some sort of DDT fashion to win the match later on. Like, throws it down, Hana takes the bump, and 1, 2, 3. Okay, what else? This is a weird one. The draft last year.
Okay, what about it?
Okay, so basically how the draft worked last year, there was 5. There were 5 factions in Stardom. 1 would be knocked out in the draft, and Jungle Kiona's Jan was knocked out. And then it was between Hana, who had just returned and started forming her own faction, like the pre-TCS. And Jungle was the first drafted because she was like, yeah, you almost killed me. Why wouldn't I have you on my team?
I think mine is both the banana skin and weirdly it's the Julia match. It might not be, a 5-star classic by any stretch of the imagination, but it was my first real foray into the Hana Kimura sort of match, and it was different to everything else on that card. I know there was heat between the two, storyline heat between the two, and that was the point of the match, the brutal brawling of the match. But it was something completely different. And I loved that about it. She was captivating. She was charismatic. She drew your eye. You can't help but watch Hana Kimura when she's on your screen. And I found that in this match. I just found her so fucking enjoyable to watch. It was great. Obviously, her last match was the Cinderella tournament from March this year, where she fought to a time limit draw. Oh no, it wasn't a time limit draw. They both went over the top rope, wasn't it? Her and Mayu.
I think it's a fairly creative spot.
It was.
Heel should have been involved.
It was. I wish one of them had progressed, but you can't have everything.
Rest in that tournament. Sorry.
But I think to round this off, one, I am just going to shout out the Eastern Lariat podcast with Strigger and Dylan, who did just the most beautiful touching, emotional, and personal tribute to Hana Kimura on their latest episode. So I actively encourage you to go and check that out from two people who've been following Hana from, years and years and years ago. Please go and check that out. It's really, really good listen, and it really does pay testament to Hana as a person. Secondly, let's remember Hana as more than the reason she's been put onto so many national news sites. I mean, it was on BBC News in the UK, which is our big sort of news network. Remember her for more than that. Remember her for her charisma. Remember her for the sunshine and the light and the happiness she brought to everyone that she knew. Read stories of her on Twitter and how good a person she was. Remember her as more than the cause of death, because that is not fair on her. And finally, just be better. If you know that you can be better, and I know I'm one of those people, I'm never horrible to people on Twitter, but I know that, I can reach out to people and things like that. Do it. Just please do it. Try and be positive. Try and be better, because being toxic and social media being what it is at the moment has led to the death of a 22-year-old woman who had her entire life ahead of her. Not just wrestling, her entire life ahead of her. And for her to have been robbed of that is heartbreaking. So I think I speak for both me and Chris by just saying, be better, and rest in peace, Hana. Moving on from this then, which I say with a massive degree of difficulty, I'm not going to lie. We move on to Arisa Hoshiki, who unfortunately, just before this on May 20th, announced that she would be retiring from Stardom, relinquishing the Wonder of Stardom Championship, with her reign ending at just over a year. This was because of a culmination of head and neck injuries that she announced in the post, and her announcement that she'd actually been struggling with for nearly a year, which means that her entire run from 2019, May 2019, when she won the belt off Momo at Stardom May Gold.
Golden May.
I keep calling it May Gold, and I know it's Gold May, and my head knows it's Gold May, but my face doesn't want to say that, and I don't know why. Which means that she was wrestling most of the time in excruciating pain, which...
That's pain. We'll get into it in a second, but, she didn't show any sign of slowing down until at least after the 5-star, and even then, a lot of those matches were still great.
Absolutely. You look at those matches and the entire, premise of the second half of this podcast is a retrospective of...
Yeah, because essentially what was happening, I think we were going to do Momo. So we were going to do Momo or Jungle versus Queen's Quest. I can't remember at this stage. And as soon as Arisa retired, Rob just basically said to me, do you want... probably sensing how upset I was, going, hey, do you just want to do Arisa's? I'm like, yes. Yes, I do.
Well,
it was
yeah.
It was like after Tony Stark died and Happy sat next to his daughter. I was like, what do you want? I'm like, I want to watch Arisa matches. Okay, matches.
So yeah, we are going to do a retrospective of that last Wonder of Stardom Championship run. And obviously, I know, Chris, I'm going to throw to you in a sec. I know that she was your favourite wrestler, and one of the main reasons, if not the reason, you actually got into Stardom in the first place. But just looking down this list of matches, you look at the matches she had, especially at the start. So she took the belt off Momo in May, the 16th of May 2019. She then had at least one match a month before she retired, which means that she's had, I believe, was this her she was on a 13th defense? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, she was on her 11th title defense.
11th title match because she won it from Momo. Yeah, and I remember when she pulled out of No People Gate really last minute, and like nothing was announced, so everyone had just assumed she got COVID or something. And then it's like, oh, by the way, I'm retiring. It's like, shit.
Yeah, because I remember both of us thinking, well, why is she not in the Cinderella tournament?
Yeah, nothing was announced, and like I guess this is why, but still, like it was a really weird time, and I should probably preface this by saying we're only covering the first 4 defenses, the first 4 matches rather, not count apart from the Roxy match at Pro Wrestling Eve because it's like even canon. I don't know. And then like we're gonna, because we've covered 3 matches of her post 5-star run on the cast already, and then the other 3 are just time constraints basically. So we'll go over the other 3, but we're going over the first 4 in detail like we normally would.
Yeah, and that's not to say that we aren't going to talk about those other ones. We'll give crib notes to them, but we just want, because we've already covered the Konami defense, the Utami defense, and to a certain extent, or well, a bit of a lesser extent really, the B. Priestley defense, we wanted to really go into those first 4 matches, like Chris said, with the exception of the Roxy match at Pro Wrestling Eve.
I can mention the Roxy match because Rob can attempt, because we were only going to rewatch 4-1. I've seen all of these, so I had opinions on all of them. But then I fell down a rabbit hole and watched them all.
Well, you can give crib notes to that because I'll hold my hand up. I didn't watch these. I have watched most of them. I haven't watched that one.
Blind spots are Hater, Kagetsu, and Avery.
I haven't watched the Avery match. I've watched the Hater match, and I watched part of the Kagetsu match. But then something corrupted on my phone. It was really, really strange. It just wouldn't play the rest of the video, so I didn't watch the rest of that one. But we'll get into that in a moment.
Anyway.
Before we start, Chris, obviously I know Arisa is your fave. She debuted originally in 2011, left in 2012. She then made a return in 2018, and you started watching round about this time, 2019?
I literally started watching in the May of 2019, so around the time she won it, and then I got properly invested after her TAM match. So,
what drew you to Arisa?
She kicks people really fucking hard, Rob.
That is undeniable, okay. Chris. Yeah.
Okay. This is gonna. So you know how a lot of my enjoyment of wrestling comes in very specific things.
Elaborate, please.
Like, for example, my favorite thing about the G1 climax was Old Man Nagata dropping young people on their head.
Okay. Yes.
I am a big fan of the unassuming badass.
Yeah, I can see where this is going.
So sort of in the same way that if you saw Peter Parker, you wouldn't assume he's Spider-Man. If you just look at J-pop queen Arisa, you're not going to think, oh, she could probably give someone a concussion.
No, I'm completely with you on that. And I'd go a step further, actually, Chris. You watch all of her pre-match interviews, and she's just happy, smiley, cuddly Arisa.
But then also she's cutting promos about, I'm going to kick you.
Well,
and that's sort of what I like to run. Like, near the end of it, she became a fucking psychopath.
Well, I was just going to say, the first match against Momo, we'll get into these in a minute properly. Her first match against Momo, she was like, I'm going for the belt, I'm really happy. It was your typical babyface promo. She then got to her Hazuki match from, I think it was July. Yeah, it was the July show. And she just went, I'm going to welcome Hazuki with kicks to the head.
And then you jump to Utami defense in January of this year, and she's pulling a very clearly not right Utami around by her fucking head.
Yeah, that was divisive at the time when we watched it the first time.
Yeah, it's still divisive now. Like, some people still think call it a match of the year. Some people are Rob.
Where do you fall in that?
I fall somewhere in the middle, but more towards I give it a high 8, low 9.
Okay, and I think I gave it a 7, didn't I?
You tried to give it a 6. I talked you up to a 7.
Well, I have rewatched it, so we can talk about that as well, because you asked me about the Tam match, which obviously I'd rewatched.
Yeah, in case you don't know, I finally got Rob to cover it on a Young Lion once. If you want to hear like his impression of the match before he was a Stardom fan, go listen to that. But I am actually curious to see how it changed. But we do need to get through the admin of a Momo match first.
We do. So let's delve into this, Chris. So 16th of May 2019, from the Stardom Gold May Show 2019, Wonder of Stardom title match between Arisa Hoshiki and the champion of Momo Watanabe, who at the time was on a record-breaking reign of her own.
Events, I believe this was.
I believe it was. Did you say 14th? Then
I think it was 15th. Hang on, I actually have a Wonder of Stardom page up here, so I can tell you.
Okay.
Matches. 14th defense.
It was a 14th defense. I thought it was, and I think she referenced it in a promo.
Okay, because essentially with Momo, her thing was what Io Shirai did with the title, where it's like, yeah, I'll come have a go. And so like it made her look like a badass because people would come to her, and like she challenged all like Natsu Sumire had a fucking title match.
Bizarre.
It is bizarre, but also I kind of want to see that match.
I bet it was good. To be fair.
It's kind of like I have a morbid curiosity over Toru Yano's one IWGP Championship shot. Or like, actually with Natsu Sumire, I think the better comparison would be Yujiro.
Yes, potentially.
But yeah, by the way, very quickly, how weird is this card?
I'll be honest, Chris, I didn't watch the rest of the card. I didn't even look at the rest of the card.
Just on paper, why is Kagetsu and Tony Storm having a time limit draw?
I can't answer that.
This is in May. This is like 3 months after we saw her in Blackpool. And then Hazuki's getting a World of Stardom Championship match because, quite frankly, B Priest's reign. People shit on B Priest's reign. I think it's fine. Anyway, this match. What did you think? I'm actually more curious to hear what you think, rather than.
So, it went 13 minutes, 12:57 it went. And
yes.
The big thing I noticed was, if you look at Arisa's reign later on and Mayu's reign with the red belt, they're very good at playing from the bottom, but a champion ordinarily will be the one in peril, then fights from underneath, rallies and retains the championship. Momo was not that person. Momo decided to try and kill Arisa, which is absolutely what we want Momo to do.
I mean, I don't.
Well, I know you don't. But this was everything I could have wanted in a 13-minute match. It was brutal. It was, at times, a little bit uncomfortable to watch. And honestly, I thoroughly enjoyed it, as I have enjoyed every single Momo Watanabe match.
What I did enjoy was in the pre-match promo, Momo was like, I don't want to get kicked. So in the early stages, was trying to keep Arisa's legs locked so she wouldn't get kicked.
I'm amazed as well, because obviously everyone knows and everyone referenced in their promos just how devastating Arisa's kicks are, which they are. Jesus Christ, they are.
They sound like you've been shot.
But there's only... I don't think there's a better sound, is there, in wrestling than an Arisa kick hitting. There's only 2 real defenses in this entire run that we're going to look at where people actually focused solely on trying to take her legs.
Yeah. I think other people just watched it and realised it doesn't work, so you more need to learn how to take the kicks.
Yeah, because obviously we had here Momo just basically trying to take Arisa's legs out from underneath, and you had Jungle later on who, like, knowingly and very, very focused, worked on those legs to try and take the kicks out. And I think...
Tam also did for a bit, and I have thoughts on that. You also have thoughts on that. I feel it's going to end up in an argument and possibly the end of this podcast. But... it went into a kick. This went into a kick exchange at one point, and I'm like, "That's not smart. Play smart, Momo."
It was very, very weird that she would cut in her promo, I don't want to get kicked, and then would apparently resort to, do you know what? I'm going to see if I can out-kick Arisa and see what happens.
It's like trying to beat a zombie in a brain-eating contest.
Sure.
You know, no weird thought I had while watching this match, because it's the first time I've watched Stardom since last month when we did E versus Mai.
Go on.
You know how there's like no commentary?
Yes.
I was thinking in my head, what if there was golf commentators doing wrestling?
Golf?
Golf, you know, they're just sitting there going, oh, what a beautiful kick there. That's going to really help her in her campaign.
Well, I don't think understated commentary would really do them the favours they were looking for.
But by inverse, imagine if JR commentated golf.
By God, it's a hole-in-one!
By God, he's got a birdie! He's got a birdie!
I can't believe the sports referencing you're throwing out, to be perfectly honest, Chris.
I just know what golf commentary sounds like. And I play Wii Golf sometimes.
It was here that I first, I noticed it in the TAM match, and obviously we'll get into the TAM match. It was here that I really, really noticed just how good Arisa's striking was. Like, just the variety from I don't know if it's the 13.99 or the 1399 or how I'm going to call it the 13.99. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Off the top rope, that roundhouse looks and sounds just amazing.
How do you? It's so easy to have a move like that look fake as fuck.
But exactly, and it never ever does. And she won the Hazuki match with what was effectively a Shining Wizard. She channeled her inner Kento Miyahara in the jungle match by just spamming the knee strikes. And
I say that in the opening bit, like Kento Miyahara is the best comparison you can come up with like the champion whose just every defense is completely watchable, whereas Okada you have him going 40 minutes with fucking Sonata, and you're like, yeah, I can probably skip this one.
I must admit, something that I did enjoy from match to match to match to match to match with Arisa is she evolved in every match.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking take notes, Okada.
In this match with Momo, she was 3 moves. She had the Diamond Buster, which is that front power slam she has. She hit that 3 or 4 times. She hit one on the outside, and then she had a couple in the ring to set up the Adamas, that rounding moonsault. The aforementioned rounding moonsault, and then the kicks. You know, whether that be the Brazilian kick that wins it or the 13.99. It was like it was almost a desperation in this Momo match.
Even to be fair, Momo was getting death threat points. How many fucking Peach Sunrises did she hit?
Well, she'd won the tag match and pinned Arisa before this with the Peach Sunrise.
And then Arisa got hit with, what, 5 Peach Sunrises?
Well, no, she only got hit with 1. Momo attempted to hit it, and then she finally hit 1, and Arisa... It was blocked beautifully because Momo hits it, and Arisa's legs obviously go over, and they hit the ropes.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. I loved it. You couldn't have done it any better.
That kick out is up there with... do you remember the Kenny Omega Jay White match?
The one from New Beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know when Jay White... there was a kick out, and no one had seen it because Jay White had literally only just got his shoulder off the mat.
Yes, you've raved about this as well before, and it definitely wasn't in... Was it in reference to this? No. Anyway, you've raved about that before, definitely.
Yeah, we're going to have to do it on a classic at some point, because that match is fucking underrated. But anyway, just... But very simple story here. Momo's the unstoppable ace, Arisa's the lovable underdog fight.
Yeah, and eventually Arisa does manage to hit the Brazilian kick, wins the championship at 12 minutes and 57 seconds. Overall, Chris, a really, really enjoyable match.
Yeah, I love a Brazilian kick. I love that tiny pause before she hits. It's like, ski.
It's the fact there's a couple of defences, not in this one, there's a couple of defences later on where they'll duck the first one and then get hit with the rebound one, and that one looks even better in my opinion.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I want to bring up a point here, actually. How come a Stardom can have a 12-minute match and have it feel like a half-hour epic, and after it's done, you feel it's the best wrestling you've ever seen in your life? But then, like, I was watching the Champions Carnival recently, and they have 12-minute matches, and they feel really anemic.
Well, what I was going to say was, actually, they managed to do everything they needed to do in the 13 minutes.
They paced it to, like, it's so easy to have a 30-minute match and not sell for the entire thing, but they were both selling, like, throughout the match.
Yeah, it was intense, it was urgent, it didn't need to be any like, it might have benefited from maybe, 20, 30 more seconds? I'm not going to complain for that amount of time.
I mean, we tend to complain for 2 hours at a time, but, but yeah, like, it's weird, because also after this match, like, the next two matches were set up, because Hazuki came out, they pulled each other's hair, the feud there, we'll go on to that, they basically want to hate fuck each other. And then you have Tam being forced to be part of Arisa's celebration, and she very clearly doesn't want to be there.
The entire premise of this feud makes me laugh.
What, the Tam and Arisa feud? Arisa's there, they're going, no, Tam's my best friend, and Tam's like, go away. You know what it's like? It's like my nieces, where one of them is like so happy to be around the other one, and the other one's like, she's getting to like 11 years old, and she's just like, just everyone leave me alone.
Exactly. It's almost like, if you look at Impact Wrestling from a couple of years ago, it's Ali and Rosemary. With like Ali giving her this big hug, and Rosemary's just like, ugh.
Yeah, literally. I sometimes feel it's the relationship me and Garth are gonna have.
Going to have?
Like, into the future, like, he'll just get sick of me, and I'll just be there going, Garth's my best friend.
So, we get to the 16th of June, and it's the Stardom Shining Destiny Tour 2019, with Arisa defeating and retaining against Tam Nakano in 21 minutes and 41 seconds. Now, Chris, you made me watch this match before.
Yes.
And I will be perfectly honest, people. Bearing in mind this was A, my first Stardom match, and B, it was my first Stardom match in a bubble. I'd never seen any of the build-up or anything like that. And
also, he really wanted to hurt my feelings.
That wasn't anything to do with it, he says. It wasn't that. It was... I'd seen obviously you building it up as this absolutely wonderful match.
Well, actually, I was building up a jungle match more, but like, you picked this for some reason.
And no, you were very hot on this match, very hot on this match.
Because it's like this is the match where I finally went, oh, I get it now.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of other people, a lot of other Stardom fans,
Voices of Wrestling gave us 4 and 3/4, which, like, if you ever read Voices of Wrestling, it's so hard to even get a 4-star on there.
They are very hard to impress, and the fact that they gave this such a high mark is indicative of how good this match was. And I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was I don't know. I didn't enjoy it the first time round, and I don't know why. This gives you some indication. The first time that I watched the Konami match from December, the year-end climax, I initially enjoyed that match more than I enjoyed the Arisa and Tam match from June. Now, that might seem absolute lunacy, and like I said, it was just personal preference. But, obviously, with us doing this Arisa retrospective, going back, I felt I needed to rewatch it. Now, rewatching it, knowing what I know now, knowing a bit about the build-up, knowing the characters more, which I didn't think was important, and good God, it really, really is important. It helped me enjoy the match significantly more this time.
Because this would have been around the time of, like, the climax of the Sanada-Okada feud, which is like just two guys whose gimmick is that they don't have the personality. Yeah, sort of. Whereas these were two women who, Arisa she's not one-dimensional. That sounds like I'm criticising her, and I'm not. You don't need to be multi-layered in every single facet.
she just kicks people's head off, and that's all she needs to do. She's lovable, but is a badass when she needs to be. She's basically Kota Ibushi.
It's like if John Wick and a Hello Kitty had a kid.
Yeah, exactly. There doesn't need to be layers to that. Now, Tam is something quite similar, but throw in the wrinkle of the fact that Arisa wants to be closer than Tam does at any point ever, and this makes this match far more compelling. But because I wasn't familiar with the Tam character, I wasn't familiar with the Arisa character going in the first time, I didn't enjoy it as much. However, I did enjoy it far more second time round, Chris. You'll be happy to know.
Also, Tam was jealous of Arisa's relationship with Mai. It's actually funny. There was a fight for the 6-man belts and the artist belts, and the whole time Arisa was talking, Tam was just going, oh, "Why can't it just be me and May? Why can't it just be me and May? Why can't it just be me and May?" But yeah, like they just because they're both in stars, like ever since Arisa returns, they've been in tag matches, and Tam would just be a dick.
Well, weren't they in the Goddesses of Stardom Tag League later on?
Yeah, they were in Tag League this year, later in the year, and Tam was still body slamming Arisa to get moves off. But then they became best friends. Wrestling's weird. But yeah, just she wasn't very nice, and Arisa was like, "Right, I'm the champion now." Because it's weird. Like I mentioned before, how Momo basically used her platform to get to fight anyone, whereas Arisa was like, "Right, I'm going to fight these very specific people."
Okay.
We should probably jump onto the actual match now. This match is great. Like honestly, if you're a Stardom fan and you haven't seen it, I don't get you.
It's got the emotion and drama it needs to have, and that last 5 minutes, that closing sequence, the kicks, the knee trades, and I didn't think I'd see in Stardom anyone who does desperation better than Mayu. But in this match and in later defenses, Arisa, when she is, she's at the very, very end of everything she can take, and she's just got that last bit, that last desperation, just enough to hit that Brazilian kick or hit that Shining Wizard or hit whatever move it is that gives her that little bit of room. The facial expressions, the emotion that she exudes is second to none in that company. Yeah.
And again, going into this match, Tam had a strategy. She was going for the legs, not to hurt the legs, but to just so she wouldn't get kicked. And how Tam kept getting into leg locks was actually quite fun. Like at one point she cartwheels into one, which is so creative and I love it. But then as soon as Arisa starts getting kicks off, she abandons that strategy because she's being overwhelmed by the kicks. And so she just starts being in the Matrix.
The spot she did the same spot in the Cinderella tournament. It was great.
There's a point in this match. They both end up on falling off a turnbuckle. Tam forced to be outside. What Arisa does is go outside, hits a Meteora, which then Tam fully takes, but then matrixes out of and hits a German suplex. And that's one of the best spots I've seen in my whole time watching Stardom. It's great. And then they just started hitting each other. Tam hitting a V-trigger, then going up top, Arisa cutting her off. Blech. Loving it, forearming the shit out of each other. I'm a simple man, Rob. It's in the same way that I enjoy watching Godzilla fight Mothra, I enjoy watching Tam and Arisa forearm the shit out of each other for a minute.
There's nothing not to enjoy in that, Chris. I mean, honestly, you look at the matches that we enjoy in the G1 Climax or in All Japan, they are matches where two men just beat the shit out of each other because there's a stake at the end of the match. And that's all we needed. The added wrinkle of them, Arisa wanting to be friends and Tam not wanting to be friends, added a great dynamic to it. But ultimately, these are two people that just wanted to lamp the shit out of each other to get that Wonder of Stardom title.
By the way, how great was the look of shock on Tam's face after Arisa kicked out the tiger?
She looked confused more than anything.
Wait, what? Are you fucking kidding me? You know what it's like? It's like when have you ever looked at a baby when you leave its peripheral vision? It was a bit like that.
It was a little bit. But Tam's another one who we've talked about Arisa having this, this cute, sort of cuddly side, and then she goes out and she's absolutely terrifying. Tam's even worse.
With Tam, I believe it more because, she looks like a 10-year-old, and if you've ever met a 10-year-old, it's like, oh, yeah, no, they're fucking scary.
She's if Kung Fu Panda was real.
Everybody was kung fu fighting.
Anyway, the match ends. Arisa retains in 21 minutes and 41 seconds. Gets her first official... Say again, sorry?
I believe that's the longest match of her reign.
It is. Her second longest is the match against Jungle at 20 minutes and 28. Only 2 matches in this run go over 20 minutes, which shows you don't need to pad out matches to get all the drama out of them.
Okay.
I am willing, Chris, to amend my original grade of this. Did I say I gave it a 7?
No, I gave it a 9, you gave it a 7.
So we averaged it out as an 8.
Are you willing to a 9?
I'm willing to give it a 9, yes.
Yeah.
I really... the second time watching it, I really, really enjoyed it. And I don't know whether, like I say, it's because I'm more acclimatized to the product or because I'm more acclimatized to the characters and the stories. I enjoyed watching 2 people kick the shit out of each other. Yeah, there was a lack of selling, and this was my issue before in the initial review, if you ever find it on the Young Lion cast. But do you know what? I don't care. As long as it is not glaring and all the damn time, I can forego it. As long as it's not offensive.
In the Jungle match, we'll see that Arisa can fucking sell.
That's what I want to get to. So, Chris, do you want to talk about the match from the 30th of June, 2019? Arisa Hoshiki defeats Roxy at Eve Wrestle Queendom in York Hall in England. I know you watched this match. Do you just want to give us some cliff notes of that match?
It's probably the best Roxy match. Arisa was working like when someone's very clearly trying to represent the company, she was working like that, so she was working well, but not trying to put on match of the night. Because at the end of the day, you're a special attraction, you're not the main event, and she did that fine. It's probably the second worst defense next to Avery, but also it was fine. It's Roxy. Roxy is very small, and therefore every time she takes a bump, I'm scared she's gonna shatter.
Yeah. Is it one of those where it's a solid defense, but not one you should seek out?
Anyone who wanted to see Arisa in the flesh would have been satisfied, but as it stands, unless you want to watch all of them, or her defenses, you just as good skipping it.
Okay, fair enough. So we move on to her next defense, which took place on the 24th of July, my mother's birthday. Hi, Mum. Like she listens to this podcast. From the Stardom World Big Summit in Tokyo show, again at Korakuen Hall, with Arisa defeating Hazuki in 15 minutes and 35 seconds. Now, Chris, before this match, I'd only ever seen Hazuki in... No, not necessarily in one match, but in high-speed matches.
Yeah.
And
then the one, which is very much not high-speed.
Yeah, well, this one I enjoyed far more. Now, there's no denying that Hazuki is incredibly talented. And...
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, in that high-speed division, she was 22 when she retired.
20, so it could be 23 now.
Something like that,
yeah.
But in that high-speed division with, the likes of Death Yamasa, Azumi, there was, Starlight Kid. She was great. She was a really, really good competitor. So I was interested to see how she would work a main event sort of style match. And it was completely different to the Momo match and to the Tam match. And
apparently because she didn't go for the legs this time. She just tried to kick her.
She targeted the back a little bit. And this was the first time I noticed the tape on the back of Arisa's neck that she would then carry, obviously, throughout the title defenses. Hazuki took a very, very different approach to Momo and Tam, who, despite knowing Arisa's striking ability, tried at points to out-strike her. Hazuki didn't even bother. She brawled,
Yeah.
she threw... It was the only real one that was like that, with the exception of the Kagetsu match, where she'd launch her into chairs, she'd just work the back with backbreakers, submissions. It was a completely different style.
It was a Uedatai strategy, basically, including taking her up to the board and slapping her against it. That's just what Uedatai did.
It is, and it worked because it wasn't what we'd seen before in this Arisa title run.
What I did enjoy was when Hazuki throws Arisa back into the ring and then immediately throws her out, and she only threw her in to break the count. It was
lit. It was brilliant. She threw her from one side, Arisa started rolling, Hazuki slid in and then pushed her out the other side. It was brilliant.
Why does no one else ever do that? We just do like a quick run in, run out, but no, it's just like, no, we're going to take you to the other side now.
I think it was this match. Did you notice the amount of empty seats?
Yeah, because they were holding it as a daytime show.
Right, okay. Doesn't matter then. I knew they didn't sell out the day shows, but it was like, I'm not used to seeing empty seats on a Stardom show.
No, that's the thing. We've only started doing that well fairly recently.
Yeah. What did you think of this match, Chris?
I enjoyed it. There were some creative spots, for example... when we were both up top and Hazuki flipped over Arisa, normally they go straight into a powerbomb, but no, she just runs, hits another pump kick, and then a neck breaker. It was great. Other than like the Uedatai tactics, I feel like calling this like a standard defense after that. Like once Arisa started making it more competitive, there wasn't a massive story to latch on to. Like, not to say that it's not amazing, but the story here is basically these two want to hate fuck each other, and there's only so much you can do about it.
Hate that phrase. One point that I will pick out, and this is what set it aside for me as a match of note, is that Arisa had Hazuki beaten, and then just before the 3 count pulled Hazuki up to hit her with the Brazilian kick. Hazuki then kicked out of the Brazilian kick, which is a feat in itself. But the look of just...
shock.
It wasn't even shock, Chris. It was the fact that Arisa was like, what have I done? I had her beaten, I did one more move, and it could have cost me the match. And she conveyed that emotion through one expression. And it was just one moment in this match, but it really, really got me. It really had me invested in the match, because I was like, even though I knew like Hazuki wasn't winning, we're doing a retrospective on her really long title reign, but I was still like, can you imagine if Arisa had lost the belt by being just that little bit too cocky? A side we haven't really seen of Arisa, and to be honest, don't really see very often in her later defences.
You saw it more after the 5-star, but like, yeah, we never got to the point where she was just cocky over time. Basically, what Kenta Miyahara was like when he lost the title. My favourite part of this match was when Arisa missed a Brazilian kick and Hazuki straight away did an El Magistral and got like a 2.9.
That's the kick out that got me. That's the kick out that got me. That was fantastic. That was so well timed.
And then straight away, Arisa hits a bomb AA from 3.
Amazing. I'll be honest, Chris. I enjoyed this match. I think more than you did. What did you give it?
I gave it an 8.
Okay. We enjoyed it equally. I'll give it an 8 then. We didn't rate the Momo match. We probably should go back and rate the Momo match because Momo's fucking class. Yeah, I gave that an 8 as well. So obviously, Arisa retains, defeats Hazuki in 15 minutes and 35 seconds. We move on to August and the Stardom X Stardom Show 2019 from the 10th of August, where... Very, very good show. I'll watch the rest of this. With Arisa Hoshiki defeating Jungle Kiona in 20 minutes and 28 seconds. Chris, what a match.
This is my favourite Stardom match.
Continue. Elaborate. Why?
Partly because I'm biased. Jungle and Arisa are my favourite in Stardom.
Is that literally...
The match is also fucking class. But also, like, yeah, it was like, oh my god, my 2 favourites. Who do I root for? I was like Chidi from The Good Place. I'm like, oh my god, I can't pick one. But yeah, like, it's weird because both of them played their roles perfectly, but also like broke them. I sound so weird right now. And anyway, This is like the first title shot Jungle got since Jan broke up. So like this is a good way to see how like TCS Jungle was different, and she was basically still Jungle. She's still gonna lariat the shit out of you. What I do like is Arisa sort of doing the kicks just to make Jungle back off. Like none of them connected at the start. They were just kick, and it was sort of like, no, fuck off. And then like Jungle just wouldn't leave Arisa's leg alone. Like, how long was Arisa in an ankle lock for at the beginning of this match?
It felt like so she spent so long in varieties of knee bars and just general leg submissions for what felt like about 3 minutes of this match, but it didn't feel too long. It didn't feel like, you know, when wrestlers are tired and they just resort to rest holds. Yeah, this had a purpose.
When say like Randy Orton does a rest hold, it has nothing to do with the rest of the match. But like when they're in a submission here, like Arisa was always jostling for the ropes. Like the desperation she had when going for the ropes at some points in this match was so like you could feel it through the screen. And then she'd still be able to hit her kicks, but she wouldn't be able to capitalize. Like she'd put a run together, and she just wouldn't be able to get the pin because she'd hit the big kick and then be like, oh fuck, that's fucked my leg, and wouldn't be able to do it. It's so simple, but like so often that gets ignored.
It's something that I took real issue with, as I've already stated in the Tam match the first time, and again the second time of watching, I thought I was a little bit harsh, but here she sells it beautifully.
Yeah, and then the Meteora getting counted into an apron bomb.
Oh my god, it was savage.
I know, like she was just like, "Oh, you're gonna try that, are you?" Skeet.
I've also never seen a power bomb reversed by just literally sitting down. Just a person on your shoulders just literally sitting down. I've never seen that before.
No, that's right, because she didn't just sit down. She sort of kneeled down. She somehow turned it into a Meteora mid power bomb.
It was. And this is what I mean about in every defense, Arisa adapted and evolved.
Yeah, that's my problem with a lot of. Well, I say a lot of. I'm gonna just say Okada because that's who I'm talking about.
You've got such a stick in your craw about Okada at the moment.
Yeah, because I've been watching a lot of like Aces.
Chris, calm down. Take a breath.
Okay, this
Jungle versus Arisa.
Right. Arisa's better than Okada, TLDR. I want to read a part of my notes verbatim here because the way I'm writing it sounds like my typing is out of breath, if that makes sense. Because so much is happening near the end of this match. It's like Arisa jumps out of the way of a Stinger Splash and hits a V-trigger. Jungle then follows her up the ropes and gets a headbutt, and Arisa attempts a lower bomb, gives up and kicks. And then like there's just points in my notes where I'm going because I can't articulate what's happening.
Just making noises.
Yeah, because I'm just sort of like, what the fuck? Stop moving. Like, several duck kicks into a powerbomb, attempting to a lariat into a V-trigger, into a lariat, onto a V-trigger and another. And then, like, that note just stopped halfway through a word. It was moving fast, but it wasn't moving too fast to comprehend. It's just moving too fast for me to be able to take notes. Like, this wasn't a Jack Evans situation.
The best...
And then,
go on.
The bit that sticks out most to me, though, is the Brock Lock. The extended Brock Lock.
Oh, this is what I was going to talk about. I don't think... Nobody uses the Brock Lock enough anymore, but the fact that she not only used the Brock Lock by locking the leg around her neck and standing up, but then she then grabbed the arm as well to really, really cinch it in. And it looked... I mean, you saw Mayu, who was on the outside behind them, and she just looked like it was a mixture of, holy shit, that looks amazing, and oh my god, my friend is dying. And it sold the move even better. It looked amazing.
What I loved about Jungle also, she also worked over the neck because she's like, well, I can take out the kicks, but in reality, my move base isn't anything to do with legs. So if I also target the neck, I can, lariat her head off. Like, for example, the sit-out muscle buster.
The Jungle Buster.
Yeah, which quite frankly should be banned because that's fucking nasty.
I don't think I ever won't pop for Jungle Kiona doing that.
Yeah, no, because, like, it's more dangerous than the Knuckle Buster, which is saying a lot for a move that literally paralyzed Tyson Kidd.
Oh, it's incredibly dangerous. But when done right, it's a case of, fucking hell, that looked amazing.
Yeah, and Jungle Jungle hits people hard, but she's safe as houses. She's more likely to get injured than anyone else.
The biggest compliment that I can pay Jungle is that, and we've both said this on separate occasions, she's so like Ishii that it's untrue.
It's like if Ishii and Elgin had a kid.
Yeah, you would always trust Tomohiro Ishii to have that absolute barnstormer of a match. And Jungle Kyona is exactly the same. You put her in the ring with anyone, and she will have a great match. I mean, she's in the ring with one of the best in Arisa. And this match really does show this. But
8 out of 10 out of Julia earlier in the year. So, and I fucking hate Julia.
See, and do you know what? Julia is a target for another podcast. I don't not like her. I will just get that out there. I don't not like her. I think she's got real potential, and I think she's got the potential to be the face of the company. She just needs to work a little bit more. I think she's on the right trajectory. I think they've done well with her so far.
I think they Roman Reigns there. We're going to get into an absolutely different discussion, and quite frankly, Garth is waiting at this point. So, just to the end of this match, a million different strike exchanges. Find me a better minute in ever.
Amazing. I mean, it went 20 minutes and 28 seconds, and it felt like about 11.
That's the thing. Time flew by like it was 11, but also there was enough substance in there for an hour.
This is something that I really do enjoy about the Stardom product in general. They were able to fit so much in such a little amount of time.
Yeah, and it's so refreshing in the world that's like every big promotion, like all the big smarky promotion, ones that smarks into, so NXT, AEW, New Japan, they're all obsessed with half-hour epics, and while it has its place, it's nice to have somewhere that just thinks, yeah, we can get all our shit in 20 minutes, so let's just do that and go to the pub. I can't not give this match a 10. It's my Stardom match of the year last year, and apart from maybe Ahura versus Mayu, it's my favourite Stardom match ever.
You did rave about Mayu Ahura.
You haven't watched it yet. You love Mayu. Watch it.
I know, I will. I promise I will. It's on the list. Do you know what? I'll give it a 10. I'm in a generous mood. It was a great match with two of Stardom's best. For me, it was probably the second best defense. No, do you know what? I think it was the best defense of this entire run. Tam a very, very, very close second. I think Jungle continues to show, every time she's in the ring, she continues to show that she is not just solid, but an absolutely amazing worker who is able to adapt to whatever situation she's in. Like you mentioned earlier, Chris, her offense is mainly neck-based, but that didn't stop her experimenting with different ways of targeting the leg of Arisa. And Arisa sold it beautifully. Sold it amazingly. And that added just that depth to the match that I really loved. You know, Chris, and everyone that listens to this podcast or our New Japan podcast knows that I am a real sucker for a limb match. And this was the perfect embodiment of that. Just the right amount of selling, just the right amount of targeting a limb without it being boring. Thoroughly enjoyable. Thoroughly enjoyable.
The Miyahara Yuma match from February ago, because that's a really good limb match as well.
I'll check it out.
So, Arisa versus Avery. We don't need to talk about this very long. It went 7 minutes. Of course, it was fun because Arisa was in it, but also
I'm not very familiar with Avery in general.
She's fine. I'd put her on the level of a Zoe Sky or Layla Hirsch, where I enjoy their matches, but fine enough. They're not bad wrestlers, but also they're there to get better, so they're not quite on the. It's not like Bea Priestley now, where she's kind of on the net level enough to have great matches with these people. Avery's a step below Jamie Hayter, where she's still sort of acclimatizing as well.
I must admit, we'll get to Jamie Hayter's defense in a minute, because I really, really enjoyed Jamie Hayter's defense.
That was a surprise to me, to be honest, how good that was. But yeah, this match was fine. It went under 8 minutes. Again, it falls under the Roxy category of it was a strong enough match, I guess. But also, like, you can probably skip it, but like it's 8 minutes, so what are you losing? So, the Kagetsu match, I'm not going to lie, Rob, this one disappointed me.
It was the same night that Hana had her title shot at B, wasn't it? It was the Stardom World Champion Wars. I watched bits of this, and after Kagetsu's match with Mayu, which I was very, very high on, which obviously led to Kagetsu's retirement, I was really high on that match. So I went into this match with a level of expectation.
And even I was the same.
But again, this was the match where the feed cut out halfway through. I don't know what was up with Stardom World when I tried to watch it.
It's just fucky sometimes.
It's still a really good streaming service that's actually better than most. But yeah, just this match was, I don't know what was up with it.
Just by virtue of being able to find what you're looking for without a separate spreadsheet made by Lariato. I love you, Lariato.
Shout out Lariato.
I'm not quite sure. Like, I thought now that it was removed from my expectation because, of course, Kagetsu was the senior figure in Stardom, which is weird because she's younger than you. And then like Arisa is the best in the world. So I was like, this is going to be amazing. And then it kind of wasn't, but was still kind of good. I did prefer the B Hana match later in the night just because of how their personalities were different. But like here, it was fine. But like, I never thought I'd say this about a sub 20-minute match, but you could have cut 5 minutes off it and had it be better.
Again, I can't really talk because I only saw the first half of it, and there were little bits that dragged. I don't think it was going to go towards a bad match. I think, like you said, you look at some of the defenses. This was the third longest defense, and it didn't really need to be, and something that we've both praised Stardom for over the last couple of hours is that they know how to condense a match into a more manageable amount of time. I am inclined to agree with you slightly.
I gave it a 7, a high 7, bordering an 8.
I don't feel like I can agree or disagree, so yeah, why not?
If you ever do watch a full match, let me know.
I will do.
Arisa versus Jamie. This one surprised me because you'll remember, Rob, when I started watching the 5-star before I stopped updating because I could tell Garth was getting sick of all these Japanese names he couldn't recognize. That I was quite mad that Jamie Hayter beat Arisa in the 5-star.
Okay, yes, I do remember you saying about how
Arisa went undefeated, and then it's Jamie Hayter who breaks the fucking streak.
I remember the message. It was rage-filled.
Yeah, because I don't hate Jamie Hayter, but I'm like, really? She's the first one to beat Arisa? Are you fucking kidding me?
Something I've seen with Jamie is her tag team with B is great, and I absolutely love that. They have a great dynamic, and Jamie, has that ability to, those brief bursts of power, really show that she's the monster. And yeah, the only singles match that I saw with Jamie Hayter in it before was the SWA Championship match with Utami, and that was a little bit disappointing, I'm not going to lie. I felt like it could have been more, especially you've got fucking Utami in there. However, so I went in quite the opposite, really, with the Kagetsu match. I went into this match with very little expectation and came out of it thinking, wow, this is amazing, because this is something that Arisa hadn't faced. She hadn't faced this absolute monster. And again, on the
origin, yeah.
Exactly. Like this bullish person who can outpower you quite easily, who is still very quick, dangerously so, and is able to, basically toss you around the ring. And again, on the flip side to the Kagetsu match, this only went 11 minutes and 34 seconds.
So this is second shortest reign Stardom one after Avery.
Yeah, we don't know the Roxy match, but I assume it went longer than this.
I think it only went like 9-ish minutes.
So this is perfect. And again, it showcased a different side of Arisa where she had to adapt, where she had to change her offense to basically deal with this completely new type of threat. Because Kagetsu and Hazuki, quite similar with the way they wrestle. You know, the Oida, as you put it, the Oida Tai style. Tam and Momo, very, very hard strikers. So in a way, and I'm not saying they are similar wrestlers, but in a way you can sort of put them in a similar, very, sort of similar bracket. But Arisa at this point hadn't faced anything like this in Jamie Hayter. And though she might have been a bit of a surprise defense, she was still quite green at this point. I think she held a very, very good account of herself, and I think Arisa did very, very well in this match.
Yeah, it's not quite a carry job, but also Hayter definitely needed someone like Arisa to have a match of this quality. I say that, it's not an 8, it's still at a high 7, but it's still good. This isn't one I'd recommend skipping, honestly. It's probably the best Hayter match to date. I think it's the one where she debuted her current look, which I think is a lot better than her old one, because her old one looked like she patched together stuff out of a charity shop, whereas this one is like an actual look. Like with enough orange hair as well.
I think you're probably right. I think it's similar to the Hazuki match. It's a good match. There's nothing wrong with it at all. Again, it surpassed what expectations I had for the match, but there's nothing you can really pull out as that wow moment. The same as we pulled out of the Tam match, the Jungle Kiona match, or even the Momo match, where there was those moments where you can pull it out and go, Jesus Christ, that's fantastic. There wasn't anything here. There wasn't anything botchy, but there wasn't anything that you could really pull out and say, this is an amazing thing. An amazing thing you need to go out of your way to watch.
Yeah. Now we've gone to the ones we've already reviewed. Well, not the B match so much, but these two we've reviewed in detail already. So you don't need to go into too much detail, but just for the sake of completionism, the Konami match was fun, not up to the quality of first half of her. The first half, or how I think it's not even as good as their 5-star match, but this was a really good clashing of styles. You sort of had the technical master Konami taking on I'm gonna kick your fucking head in Arisa. I liked it.
I think I'm a lot higher on this match than you are.
Yeah.
I think
I built it up too much in my mind again.
I don't think it's that. I think it's, it was smooth, it was solid again, but Konami is one of my favourites. I don't know whether it's because of her submission style, as well as being an absolute brute of a striker, the fact that she's that great mix between two styles. I love that.
Maybe you're just a Metal Gear Solid fan.
Maybe. I enjoyed it. And again, like I said to you before, I enjoyed this more initially than the Tam Nakano match. And I think it probably is because, yet again, Arisa is so fucking good, or, she has the ability to be so fucking good at selling. And here, because Konami is so good at the submission game, Arisa has to sell. And again, we haven't really seen it from the sort of Hazuki match onwards. We saw it a bit in the Jungle match, but we hadn't really seen it up until this point. That look of absolute desperation in Arisa's. This is the only real one that I felt she could drop the championship during the match, because I thought the matchup between her and Utami was an interesting one beforehand. But here I felt Konami had a real chance of taking the championship of Arisa.
What did you give this one again? I gave it a high 7.
I think I gave it an 8.
Actually, I think we end up agreeing on 7 because you gave the Kagetsu Mayu match an 8.
Well, I'm going to pull rank and give it an 8 because I've changed mine on Tam.
Okay. So then it was the 9th anniversary show, Utami versus Arisa, and I still stand by my love of this match. You know how we talked about each match was great, and then you had the moment on top of it that took it to the next level. For me, that moment in this match was when Arisa hit her bombe and her and the moonsault, which normally wins her the match. But then she pulled up the busted open, acting like she's concussed, but she's not really, Utami up by her hair, and just gave a dead-eyed look down the camera. And I'm like, oh my god, I love Arisa, but oh my god, I'm so scared right now.
There are moments through our entire reign where you look, and again, the best comparison I can give is, the dead-eye Kota Ibushi. Arisa does go something similar to that.
Exactly, it's that. It's sort of like this happy-go-lucky figure just suddenly went all serious. I think she only went all serious because basically Utami had the audacity to step up, and she was so sick of these people.
The main issue I had with this match is the same issue I had when I first watched it, and that's the head injury.
I still don't think she was actually injured, though. Like, she wrestled 2 days later.
Well, 2 days later is 2 days later, mate. That's irrelevant.
If you get a concussion, you're not wrestling 2 days later.
Doesn't have to necessarily be a concussion. I play cricket because I'm really, really fucking cool. And I got...
No, it's so weird when we were in Blackpool, right? I got some random beers from the Morrisons in Bolton before heading over to Blackpool. And... because I drink weird beers, and one of them was like this honeycomb one, and he was like, "Oh, that's what we had on reserve in Cricket Club." I'm like, "That's the most English thing I've ever heard in my fucking life."
That's one of the craft beers we had at the Cricket Club, darling.
Yes, you even said "darling" and then pulled your cock out. It was weird.
I don't know. Like I say, I play cricket, and one of the things, like, I've been hit in the head by a cricket ball and not been concussed,
but mostly
it takes you out. You lose all sense of things. You can lose sort of your peripheral vision. You can lose all manner of things. And just because it wasn't a concussion doesn't mean that she hadn't had. Look at the Kenta versus Ishii match at Royal Quest. Where Kenta wasn't concussed, but he had his bell rung.
Yeah.
And look at the damage that did to the rest of the match. I'm not saying that this match was a really bad match. It wasn't. It wasn't a horrendous match. But the injury, and I do think it was a legitimate injury. I do think it was not a botch, because I think it potentially just went a little bit too far. But I do think that Utami had a bell rung, and it took away from the match. It took me out of the match. I know it took a significant amount of the fandom out of the match. That's not me ragging on people that enjoy the match. That's not me telling you are wrong if you enjoy this match. I'm just saying that for me, as a fan, personally, I couldn't quite get into it, and it's a shame, because I think Utami is absolutely a future Wonder of Stardom champion, and quite possibly a World of Stardom champion.
Yeah. Well, she's a super... Did you see how many fucking belts she held last year?
That is true. They are obviously very, very high on Utami, and rightly so.
Yeah, I still stand by my high 8 for this one.
I think we are always going to be divided on this match, and that's fine. We can't agree on everything. I think part of it is just my bitter disappointment that a match that included Arisa and Utami wasn't the barnstorming classic that I wanted it to be. I think that's the issue I have with it.
I do think of all the 8+ 8 out of 10 plus matches on this card. It's the worst one, apart from maybe the tag match, which I also gave an 8. But Tam versus Kagatsu early in the night was probably the best match, and one of the best matches of around the 10-minute mark I've ever seen. It was unbelievably paced. And then May versus Momo, which was, of course, just a barn burner.
But again, that's the thing. You looked at Arisa Utami and you looked at Mayu Momo, and you had that feeling about those two matches. And whereas Mayu and Momo delivered, I think Arisa and Utami would have delivered. I do just think that head injury did just take it out for me. It's personal preference. I don't expect many people to agree with me, and that's absolutely fine, because I am a twat. So that is absolutely fine.
Anyway,
Chris, the last defense was the 8th of February.
It's so weird because we skipped this. We skipped this one for some reason. I think it's because we had too many Korikens all near each other. so this sort of fell by the wayside.
No, I think we spoke about it. We spoke about it on the Cinderella show on the third episode.
I think we only spoke about it like very briefly.
We did. We spoke about it briefly because we also spoke about the night when B and Jamie Hayter took the tag titles off Jungle and Konami. So there was definitely two shows.
We talked about that because that was the 9th anniversary because we covered that show in film. No, because in the
but we also had No Peoplegate as well.
No,
that was why.
That's why, because we had to cover No Peoplegate, obviously, because so many important things happened on that show, like Captain Stardom.
That is great.
Okay.
The three faces of one.
The Sire Eater.
Anyway, do carry on.
And she gets destroyed by Natsuko Tora. I think that's disgusting. And Saki Kashima, she's the James Bay of wrestlers.
What's wrong with James Bay?
James Bay will never release a song that I consider a classic, but will also never release a bad song. He's perpetually fine.
Yeah, actually, that's probably the best way of describing Saki Kashima, to be fair.
She's the James May of wrestlers.
James Bay, not James May. She hasn't presented fucking Top Gear. Jesus, she's not that bad.
The James Bay of wrestlers, along with, like, in that part with, like, Dolph Ziggler and 2018 onward Yoshihashi, it pains me after that 2017 G1. Yeah. Anyway, this match I enjoyed because Arisa had been mocking Bea Priestley for months by training with Will Ospreay.
And then had stolen Will Ospreay's move.
Well, yes, started using the Oscar, yeah.
Which is one of the most gifable moments of 2020 in Stardom terms, where Arisa goes for the Oz Cutter, or as she calls it, the Shining Star Cutter, which is also quite a good name. And B just catches her and German suplexes her over the onto the other side of the ring, which is fucking great. She
springboards and does it. It wasn't like she went up, ran up, grabbed her, and like it normally takes a second and threw her. She went up, springboarded, and threw again across the ring. Like, people who say B hasn't improved clearly aren't watching the product.
Oh, Bea Priestley has improved exponentially. I mean,
I would argue, because I've seen a lot of, at this point, I've seen a lot of Toni Storm's World of Stardom run. I'd argue B's world run was better than Tony's.
I think the only problem was she potentially had that belt too early. Now, that's not me saying that she shouldn't be the World of Stardom champion.
Clearly, they just wanted a bridge to get it onto Mayu without having Mayu beat Kagetsu. Despite the fact Mayu's first feud was Kagetsu.
Kagetsu, yeah, absolutely. And
it's almost like they wanted the spotlight for that time to be on Arisa.
To be perfectly honest, I think Bea Priestley had some great matches, and I think she is a far, far improved competitor because of it. And again,
if you look at the ratings on the website, I gave most of her defenses an 8.
Exactly, and I think she has improved it, like I said, exponentially because of that reign and because she was in the ring with. She was in top tier talent, and that shows in this Arisa match, because this, for me, along with the Konami match, were easily the best defenses since Jungle Kiona.
Yeah, but these are the best. Well, I still think Utami, but it's weird because Arisa had like a tiny low in the middle, and by low I mean 7 out of 10 instead of 8 between 8 and 10. But like from the Konami match onwards, she was just putting on banger after banger after banger after banger, because like no one hits better than Arisa at that stage. Again, like in terms of, it's like it is Kenta Miyahara, where like not every match, like she's not infinitely watchable in random tag matches like someone like Ospreay would be. But then like every title defense, you have to watch that title defense no matter who it. Again, Arisa basically, she was given the Stardom equivalent of Yoshitatsu, who would be probably Saki. She would pull a great match out of it. Actually, I think that's asking too much out of anyone.
No, Saki's good in ring. She's just bland. I think that's the issue.
Yeah, again, the James Bay of...
Yeah, she's good in ring, but again, as you've already said, bland.
I'm not going to spend 50 quid to go see her, but...
No, absolutely not.
Honestly, I think people will just shit on any Bea Priestley match for the rest of the time because of how she was at the start of her Stardom run, but like... she got so much better. throughout her run. Like, she now doesn't seem out of place as a contender. And honestly, like, her tag champ with Jamie is perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, they're like the shithead gaijin. It's just the classic Japanese wrestling trope. They're like the Miracle Violence connection, or whoever Stan Hansen was teaming with that week. It's just how it is. But I mean, I will say this: they've contributed due to Stardom having a better tag division than fucking New Japan. Jesus,
easily.
I mean, like, that's not hard. Like, we could start a federation with literally just me, you, and Garth, and still have a better tag division than New Japan. But yeah, it's just a great one to end on. It's one of those problems. It didn't have like the depth. Like, it didn't have. It had like cool moves, but it didn't have like the character moment that I start looking for in the recent matches. But again, the mistreatment of Utami, or like the look of desperation. She never overly had that. Oh, by the way, I never told you about my favourite bit in the lead up to the Jamie Hayter match, where Jamie Hayter came out, challenged her completely in English, walked out, and she just sort of shrugged. She was like,
"Yeah, sure, why not?"
It's like when Taguchi got on the mic after a Kenny Omega promo and went, "I don't speak English."
Yeah, I can agree with you on the Arisa and B match. I think
is 8 out of 10 on moves alone, but it didn't have any character moments.
Yeah, it was. The moves were great and impactful, and again showcased just how much B has come on. And Arisa again looked phenomenal. But when you compare it to the Tam match, when you compare it to the Jungle match, when you compare it to the Momo match, there was something lacking. Even the Konami match, there was a little thing lacking. I think it was maybe, whether it be the selling, or whether it be an underlying target, or whether it be a common thread throughout the match. The match was great, and the moves came across great. I agree with you that there was something missing. I still gave it an 8 because I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's still. I kind of wish she could have ended on like the classics of the first year, but like when you think about how much pain she would have been in at this stage.
What she's putting her body through at this point, and again, if she has been suffering for a year, which is what she said in her official announcement, and you look at some of the matches where she is incessantly dropped on her neck, that poor woman must have been in absolute agony. And she states, that she was in such mental and physical distress that she couldn't get them to balance. And I feel so sorry for her because, she clearly loves the profession. She left and came back because she loved the profession. And yeah, it means we are done out of the 10th anniversary match between Mayu and Arisa that Rossi Ogawa said was going to happen, which would have been fucking amazing.
Planned for Sumo Hall, which is crazy.
I think if you're going to do a Sumo Hall show, that's the caliber of match you do, and that's, in my opinion, that would have been the biggest match Stardom had.
Yeah, like, that would have been the biggest. Like, I think that would have had the most attention since the EU Mayu matches.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's such a shame. There's a reason I'm not like upset that Utami's reign sort of had a tiny different quality, because again, I stubbed my toe and like used it as an excuse to not get out of bed in the morning, and then she's there going, yeah, well, my head's almost falling off, but I'm still going to wrestle. Yeah,
and she needs a lot of credit for that. I mean, we wish her every success in whatever she does, post this, presumably carrying on with J-pop.
Unlimited Dream.
Thank you. I was just going to say what they called. But it is sad that we don't have her anymore. And I've got a question I wanted to ask you in a little bit regarding the Wonder of Stardom Championship. Because obviously that's now being held vacant, with Arisa having vacated it after over a year in that reign. And what a reign it was. We had some absolute classics in there. The Momo, the top matches there, Chris. Momo, Jungle, Konami. I really like the Hazuki match. And then obviously the Tam Nakano match. I think those are the matches that you really go to.
Mm-hmm. But again, like, watch all of them. Well, maybe no, yeah, all of them. Like, it has to have a title range and not dip below a 6. Like, it still had that. Like, she dipped below a 7 once, and that's because in Stardom, and that's because of going less than 10 minutes.
The woman was a phenomenal talent, and she was the reason that so many people got into Stardom. When she retired, the amount of people who said, "Oh, she was the one person that got me into Stardom," and I know, as we've already mentioned on this podcast, Chris, you were one of those people. The fact that she is not there anymore, the fact that she is going to be such a huge miss, it's going to be so weird. And then, obviously, alongside the tragedy of Hana as well, Stardom is going to be a completely different landscape when we go back.
And we have been watching. Stardom's been a completely different landscape. Kazuki's gone. Kagetsu's gone. Andras seems to be gone. I don't know where the fuck she's gone. They've started bringing in outsiders. Like, Suri's still she's a freelancer, I'm pretty sure. Brought in Julia, who I keep getting told was good in Ice Ribbon, but I don't give a fuck about Ice Ribbon.
You're yet to be convinced of Julia. I'm.
It's like, because she had a very good character match with Hana, but anyone could have had a really good character match with Hana. It was Hana.
Yeah, true.
She's yet to have a match with someone who isn't already amazing. Who's like, she had a Saki match, and I was in tears for how bored I was.
Let's give her time. Let's give her time to really progress. I mean, she's only young as well. Give her time to progress. Give her a couple of really, really good matches, and we'll revisit it and see how you feel. Okay? Let's see how it goes.
I'll let you know.
Because I feel that obviously with everything that's gone on, Julia is going to have to go towards the top of that card. You know, she's one of the biggest stars Stardom has got.
Well, she was going to challenge Arisa, wasn't she?
I imagine what would have happened is that Julia would have taken the white belt off Arisa, and then Arisa would have challenged Mayu at the 10th anniversary. I imagine that was where we were going.
You reckon it would have been like Arisa winning the 5-star?
Yeah.
I will start at the 10th anniversary.
I think that would have been perfect, and then Arisa take the red belt at the 10th anniversary show, yeah. I reckon that's the perfect story arc, yeah.
Yeah, because we need to get that belt off that fucking jobber.
You leave Mayu out of this. My question to you then, Chris, now.
The banana peel to this day.
With Arisa obviously having retired, and with the Wonder of Stardom Championship being vacated, I know what I would do with this, and I've already told you what I'd do with this. Would you do the same, a tournament, or would you have something else to crown the next champion? And who would you crown as your champion?
Because of the initial wish being null and void, Julia still has a wish. So what I say you have Julia wish for the Wonder of Stardom Championship to be hers. And then that makes her mega heel, because the Stardom fans already aren't taking to her.
Do you... Okay, like, do you wish just to have the championship?
Yeah, no, like, she wishes, because it's not on anybody, she's like, well, I wish I just had that vacant championship, it would become hers. And then, because like you saw it with 5-star, and in every other promo she's ever cut, if they die a death, it is literally Roman Reignsing. So like, have that be part of the storyline, have that natural, and then like you can have someone like Tam chase it and have it be like the Kenta Goto story from earlier this year, where Tam's trying to avenge her fallen friend, and then that could be like, have it go against Julia, because Julia in storyline, I guess, is still capable. Have Julia squeak by Tam, and then have Tam win the 5-star, get the match against Julia, and have that 10th anniversary. And all the meantime, have Julia in there with some credible people to build up her reputation. You know, have her face like non-Natsuko Tora, although that's probably one of her better matches. Like, maybe even have her have a Mayo match at some point. To just you get it on Julia, try and make her as mega heel as possible. Have her beat like crowd favorites like Konami and Jungle, and then it'll be Tam chasing the title, and Tam eventually gets that title.
By the time Stardom comes back, and certainly by the time crowds are allowed back, we will be around the 5-star Grand Prix. And that's really going to help Julia, because in her block, she is going to have great workers. And you're absolutely right. Someone like, it gives her a chance to have a match with Mayu without, the stipulation of the red belt. She gets to have matches with Konami, with Jungle, with Momo, even with Utami.
Even within their faction, Siri would probably be good for her.
Exactly. We've listed 6 matches that would be absolutely great. And, even if you're not the biggest Julia fan, you think, oh, she's going to stink up. No, because we've just proved that they all have great matches. So they can help her improve. They can help her develop her style, because she's got the gifts. That fucking Stealth Viper is an absolutely sensational submission move. It's one of my favourite submission moves.
She does have decent moves.
She just needs to put it together in a more compelling match. I think that's probably where I'm coming from on that.
Yeah, again, it's because it's also her character, because basically her promos consist of you, Love, and Julia in various degrees of that order. She's like Lance Archer, but I like Lance Archer.
Well, okay, I have a slightly different approach to you, and obviously we know that you want, or you think, Julia's going to end up with the belt. I agree. I think Julia is going to end up with a belt. However, I don't think they are going to turn a heel. I reckon they are going to push her as a face, or as a tweener at the very least. And I think what we are going to get is we are going to get some manner of... just filling in the bracket. I reckon we're going to get some manner of tournament, perhaps an 8-woman tournament. And I think these are likely to be your competitors. I think you're going to have Julia, B. Priestley, Momo Watanabe, Konami, Tam, Utami, Jungle, and Natsuko Tora.
Right, okay, question then. What's Julia's wish?
I reckon they'll just forget about that. No, they'll think of something out.
In 2018, May won the 5-star and did nothing with it.
It wouldn't surprise me if that's sort of written out quietly. But I reckon that's going to be the 8-woman field. And I reckon the final of that tournament is going to be Julia versus Tam. And I think Julia goes over Tam. And then I agree with your storyline. I think Julia goes through some defenses against some of those credible opponents that we talked about before. And I think she eventually drops it to Tam later on next year.
Yeah, because again, it's the Goto story for Shibata, and it never doesn't work until Goto's involved, but Goto won't be involved, so it's fine.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to call it time there. I hope, we've looked very briefly at Arisa's last title run, but we do actively encourage you to go and watch those matches that we have discussed. They are really, really good matches. Arisa was a special, special talent, and the fact that she has retired is awful. Again, we wish her nothing but good health and hope that she does carry on to do great things. It's just a shame that we won't get to see those great things in Stardom. We look forward to seeing what the future holds for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. Hopefully, again, with the state of emergency being lifted in certain parts of Japan, including Tokyo, hopefully that wait won't be too long. Just to reference again, obviously, rest in peace, Hana Kimura. You'll always be in our thoughts, and hopefully something good can come out of this. Again, if you haven't already, go and check out the Eastern Lariat testimonial tour. It is beautiful. Thank you so much for listening, guys. We really, really do appreciate it. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Apple, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, we are there. Go and check out the website, www.podmania.co.uk, where you can check out all of our archived episodes and all of our match ratings, which are all together in a handy tab. You can talk to us on Twitter at the StardomCast. Check out the YouTube channel. channel at Real Pod Mania. The Facebook, go and join the group, the Podmania Podcasts group, just to chat all things wrestling. You can talk to me on Twitter at @RealRobGoodwin. Chris, where can they find you?
And Bushi. And Bushi.
We really do appreciate you listening, guys. Thank you so much. We'll be back in the middle of June to talk, as Chris mentioned, about Jungle Kiona's feud with Queen's Quest. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Rest in peace, Hannah. We'll be back next month.